The tornado didn't knock. It roared in like it owned the place, ripped the roof off the past, and scattered it across county lines. I watched from the basement as the floorboards above me trembled, the air filled with sounds I couldn't name. Part, train part, monster part scream. When it was over, I climbed the stairs to find sky where my kitchen ceiling used to be. By 4:30, everything was gone. My house Harold's recliner, the table where Jacob learned his alphabet, all of it folded into the wind. I had 3 bags, a dented suitcase of photos, and Harold's old toolbox. That was it. I drove to Tulsa with the radio still playing emergency alerts between static. Jacob lived in a neighborhood where all the houses looked like someone ordered them in bulk. Rachel's red SUV was in the driveway. I parked behind it and stepped out, my shoes still wet with tornado mud. Jacob opened the door. He didn't smile. "Mom," he said, voice low, like he didn't want to wake something inside. "This isn't a good time." I blinked, unsure if I'd misheard. My ears were still ringing from the wind. "The house is gone, Jacob." "I don't have anywhere else to go." He glanced over his shoulder. Rachel appeared, arms crossed. Hair slicked back like always. She didn't speak. Jacob cleared his throat. We need our space. Rachel's been working from home. She's overwhelmed." I looked down at the bags beside me. Water-stained clothes. A wedding photo with the glass cracked. I was 67 and holding the remains of my life in plastic handles, being told I was too much. "I won't be in the way," I said, too quiet. "It's not about that," he said. "We just deserve some privacy." I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I understood. Not wanted. Not now. Not ever. Maybe. "Okay," I whispered. I turned, unlocked the car, and drove off without looking back. I didn't cry. Not then. That came later. 3 nights later, when I finally dialed the number. I swore I'd never use again. I spent the first night in the Walmart parking lot. Engine off, windows cracked. Harold's old sweater pulled tight around my shoulders. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling liner and counted the cracks. By morning, my neck was locked up and my legs ached. I used the restroom inside to wash up, avoiding my reflection in the mirror. On day 2, I parked behind a 24-hour diner and nursed a cup of weak coffee until the waitress stopped refilling it. I pretended to read the paper someone had left behind, but I wasn't reading, I was waiting for what I didn't know. On the 3rd night, it rained. Not hard, just steady. A cold, tapping reminder that I didn't belong anywhere anymore. Jacob called that evening, said he'd Venmo me $100. "Just to get a room for a few nights," he said, "so you can, get sorted. Like I was a box of clutter he didn't want to unpack. "I'm fine," I said. Then I hung up before I could add anything I'd regret, or anything I'd mean too much. I didn't cry, not even then. What I felt wasn't sadness. It was something colder. Like everything I'd ever given him had been vacuumed up by Rachel's neat little world of boundaries and throw pillows. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, listening to the rain on the windshield. And that's when I reached for my wallet. Tucked behind a faded receipt from Harold's last oil change was the card. Yellowed at the edges. Ink faded. A name I hadn't spoken in 50 years. James McCade. I traced the lettering with my thumb, remembering his voice low and steady. The boy who once said, "Call me when you forget how to be strong." Back then I laughed. I never thought I'd forget. But now, in a borrowed car with 3 bags and nowhere left to go, I held that card like it might still mean something. The rain slowed. I started the car, pulled into a gas station, and dialed the number, not sure which. I feared more silence or an answer. It rang once. Then again. James McCade came, the voice on the other end, low and familiar, like a song you forgot you knew. I almost dropped the phone. My breath caught before I could speak. "It's Loretta," I said finally, and it came out smaller than I expected. A pause, then warm and immediate Loretta James. "Where are you?" I told him. "A McDonald's parking lot just off the highway west of town." "I'll be there in 2 hours," he said. The call ended before I could ask why, or tell him not to, or say that I didn't even know if I wanted him to come. But 2 hours later, a silver car pulled into the lot. He stepped out taller than I remembered, broader too. Time had put silver through his hair, but the eyes were still stormy blue, still searching. I sat, frozen, behind the wheel. What did I look like to him? A tired woman with swollen feet and 3 bags of disaster. Then he tapped on the window. I rolled it down slowly, unsure if the glass between us was the only thing holding me together. He looked at me, studied me like no one had in years. Then he smiled and said, "You look beautiful." I broke. Right there in the front seat. Tears welled, fast, hot, blinding. I hadn't cried when the house fell or when Jacob closed the door. But now, with James standing beside me like some impossible dream, it all spilled out. I opened the door and stood, or tried to. My knees gave out, but he caught me, held me. Not tightly, just enough for the weight to shift, enough for me to breathe. I leaned into him, and for the first time since the wind tore my world apart, I stopped shaking. "You didn't have to come," I whispered. He looked down at me, voice steady. I did, and in that moment, I believed him. We stood like that a while until he reached for my bags without asking, loaded them gently into the trunk. Then he opened the passenger door and said, "Come home." The driveway curved under a canopy of old oaks, the kind you can only grow with time and patience. The house at the end wasn't loud about what it was. It didn't boast or gleam. It stood solid and quiet like it had nothing to prove. James parked and turned to me but didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Just waited until I was ready to move, ready to trust that this wasn't a mistake. Inside, it smelled like fresh coffee and something warm I couldn't name. He showed me to a guest room, but I knew the moment I stepped in, it wasn't just for guests. There were fresh linens books on the nightstand, a chair by the window with a folded quilt on the back. Nothing about it said temporary. "You should rest," James said, and his voice was gentle, not pitying. "Coffee's downstairs when you're ready." I didn't rest right away. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers curled around the worn strap of Harold's old toolbox. It was the only thing that hadn't betrayed me in the storm. I set it on the floor and let go slowly. Downstairs, the kitchen looked like it had stories. Cast iron skillets hanging on the wall, a dented kettle, coffee brewing slow and intentional. James poured a cup, handed it to me without ceremony, and leaned against the counter. "Hungry?" I shook my head. "Not yet, but if you've got onions and a skillet, I can make something later." He smiled, really smiled this time. "Only if you stay longer than dinner." That's when it started. Not with a grand declaration, but an invitation that didn't need to be spoken twice. So I stayed. I cooked onions in butter while he read the paper. We didn't talk much. The silence wasn't awkward. It was easy. Like we'd paused a conversation years ago and didn't feel rushed to catch up. Later that night, I found clean pajamas folded on the bed and a note tucked under the pillow. "Stay as long as you want." My phone rang just after breakfast. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Some part of me knew. "Mom." "Where are you?" Jacob's voice was clipped too calm to be casual. I leaned against the kitchen counter, coffee warm in my hand. James had just stepped out to water the greenhouse. "I'm fine," I said, keeping it short. His words came fast, demanding. "Are you staying with someone?" There it was. Not concern, accusation. Like I owed him a report. "Yes." Silence stretched long enough to feel deliberate. "Do you even know who this man is?" I took a slow breath, kept my voice even. "He's the man who didn't shut the door in my face." The pause that followed was different. Less offended. More unsettled. I was just trying to protect our space, Jacob finally said. Rachel and I, things have been tense. We weren't trying to hurt you. You succeeded anyway. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The facts spoke louder than any tone. I was scared. I continued standing in your doorway with nothing left, and you looked at me like I was a problem to solve, not a mother who raised you. He didn't reply right away. I could hear traffic on his end. Then he said, I've been thinking about that night. Good. I want to talk. Maybe have dinner. I'll think about it, I said, and ended the call. James came in, wiping his hands on a towel. Everything all right? I nodded. My son remembered I exist. James didn't press, just poured another cup of coffee and handed it to me. We sat in the quiet, the kind that doesn't ask for anything, and I realized this wasn't just shelter. It was peace. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to give that up just because someone finally felt a little guilty. The invitation came by text. From Jacob, surprisingly. Rachel and I would love to have you both for dinner. This Friday, 6 p.m. I stared at the message for a long time before showing it to James. He didn't hesitate. We'll go, he said. Let them see what real respect looks like. Friday came too quickly. I wore a simple blouse and slacks. James looked sharp as always in a soft charcoal jacket. We brought a bottle of wine, not to impress, but to keep things civil. Rachel greeted us at the door like a realtor, staging a home smile, polished posture perfect. So glad you came, she chirped. But her eyes flicked down to my shoes, then to James's watch. The table was set with their best. I remembered buying those plates as a housewarming gift years ago. We ate in polite discomfort. Jacob asked James about his company, about construction trends, about investments. James answered with grace and clarity, but never detail. Rachel complimented my necklace. I nodded. She kept smiling. Then, halfway through dessert, Rachel tilted her head with faux sweetness and said, It's just, things seem to happen so fast between you two. I didn't flinch. 50 years isn't fast, I said. It's long enough to learn what love isn't. Her smile faltered. Jacob coughed, reaching for his water. We just worry, that's all. James leaned back, calm and unreadable. Worry tends to follow where guilt lives. Silence followed thick and unbroken. I didn't feel it. When we finally stood to leave, Rachel offered a hug. I declined. Jacob walked us to the car. I meant what I said. I want to reconnect. I opened the door and met his eyes. Then start by being honest with yourself. Not just me. James opened my door, ever the gentleman. I stepped in without another word. As we pulled away, I didn't look back at the house. I didn't need to. The woman they turned away wasn't coming back. Jacob called on a Sunday afternoon just as James was out back pruning the roses. His tone was polite, too polite. Hi, Mom. Just checking in. I didn't say much, just listened as he danced around whatever it was he really wanted to ask. After a few pleasantries about the weather and how's the garden, he finally cleared his throat. I've just been thinking ahead, you know, about your future, yours and James's. I said nothing. I mean, have you two talked about, future arrangements? There it was. I let the silence stretch a little longer than necessary. You mean inheritance? He hesitated. It's just, I want you to be safe, protected. Things can get complicated when people get older and there's assets involved. I felt a sharp twist in my chest. I wasn't safe when I was sleeping in my car. Jacob, you didn't worry then. More silence. Then a week. That's not fair. No, I said, calm and even. Fair would have been a place to stay when I lost everything. Fair would have been a warm bed and a son who remembered who raised him. He tried to backtrack. It's not that we didn't care. Rachel and I just wanted privacy. I remember. From the kitchen window, I could see James kneeling near the rose bushes, carefully cutting back a stubborn vine. Patient. Steady. the kind of man who shows love without needing to say the word. "I'm fine, Jacob," I said. "Better than I've been in years. I don't want you to think I'm after anything." I almost laughed. "Then stop circling it like a vulture. If you want to talk, talk. But don't dress it up in concern." "I know the difference. I'll call another time," he said quietly. "You do that." I hung up and stepped outside, breathing in the scent of clipped petals and early summer air. James looked up and smiled. "Everything all right?" he asked. I nodded, walking toward him. "Just a weed that needed pulling." James didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. He sat at the head of the table, calm as ever, a glass of water in front of him, untouched. Jacob and Rachel sat across from us, stiff-backed and careful, as if trying to anticipate which way the evening would go. James folded his hands. "Let me be clear," he began. "This isn't about business. It's not about assets or plans or hypothetical futures. It's about Loretta." Rachel smiled politely. Jacob's jaw worked. "If you care about her," James continued, "then let your actions show it. Not with suggestions. Not with concerns disguised as questions. But through real presence." Jacob opened his mouth, but James didn't give him room. No more fishing about the estate. No more sideways remarks. "Loretta is not a bridge to my bank account. She's not a liability to manage. And she's not a tool for reconciliation." Rachel looked down at her plate. James's voice never wavered. "There will be no money coming your way, no access, and certainly no assumptions. If you want a relationship with her, earn it. If you don't, then kindly stay gone." The silence that followed was thick and bitter. Jacob's face twitched, not with grief, not with guilt, but with something sharper: realization. He wasn't holding the cards anymore. "I've always loved you, Mom," he said finally. I don't doubt that I replied, "But love without respect, that's just decoration." Rachel stood. "We didn't come here to be insulted." "Then you came to the wrong table," I said, quietly. James looked at me, eyes soft, and reached for my hand. That small gesture, simple, steady, was louder than anything said aloud. Jacob rose next. "We should go," he muttered. No one stopped them. The door clicked shut behind them. I exhaled slowly. "They'll either come back different," James said, "or not at all." I nodded, tightening my grip on his hand. And in the quiet that followed, I realized I wasn't mourning the distance anymore. I was learning to live without permission. The dress was soft blue, something between sky and steel. I found it in a little boutique tucked behind the farmer's market, and the moment I tried it on, I didn't see a bride. I saw a woman finally standing where she chose to be. The ceremony was simple. Just us, a few old friends, and the breeze. No aisle, no orchestra, just the hush of wind through leaves and a pair of chairs beneath the arbor. James had built with his own hands. Jacob came, alone. He didn't bring flowers, didn't make speeches. He stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, face unreadable, but he stayed through the vows. That was more than I expected and less than I used to beg for. James took my hands in his eyes, steady and unshaking. He didn't say anything rehearsed. Just looked at me, leaned close, and whispered, "You look like peace." And I did. For the first time in decades, I felt it. Not borrowed, not fragile, not something I had to earn or preserve. Real peace, woven into the seams of my dress and the roots of the man standing beside me. After the ceremony, we ate cake at a picnic table. Nothing fancy, just chocolate and conversation. Jacob sat beside me for a few minutes, then excused himself quietly. He didn't apologize. But he didn't have to, not today. That weight belonged to yesterday, and I wasn't dragging it any further. Later that night, back at the house, I took off the dress and hung it near the window. The moonlight made it look almost silver. James poured 2 glasses of wine, and we sat by the fire, not speaking much. We didn't need to. He reached for my hand. No contract, no ceremony could offer more than that one gesture, the quiet promise of someone who stayed, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Outside, the wind had calmed. Inside, everything that mattered had finally come home. And when I closed my eyes that night, I didn't dream of storms. I dreamed of tomorrow. I found the business card again while cleaning out a drawer. The corners were even more worn now, the ink fading like a memory you no longer need to rehearse. Still, I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I had it framed. Simple wood, no fuss. It sits on James's desk beside a photo of us from the garden ceremony, his hand on mine. My head tilted just enough to show I had finally stopped holding it all together. Jacob still calls. Not often, not urgently. Sometimes it's a weather update. Sometimes it's nothing more than, just wanted to hear your voice. I don't always answer, but when I do, I listen without shrinking, and I hang up without guilt. I volunteer now. A little animal rescue off Route 9. I help clean cages, hold kittens, fold towels. No one there knows what I've lost or what I've lived through. They just know I show up and stay. The garden is mine again, not a metaphor. Actual soil, actual roots. I spend mornings in the dirt, afternoons on the porch. Sometimes James joins me, but mostly he lets me tend things alone, like he understands. I still need a space that is fully mine. He brings me coffee every morning. Not as a gesture, not as a favor, just because I'm here, and he loves that I am. I drink it slowly, savoring the warmth, the steadiness of something that doesn't ask for anything back. The tornado took my house. It ripped through wood, and memory shattered every piece of the life I thought I'd grow old in. But it didn't take me. And in the ruins, it left behind something unexpected, grew quiet, firm, real. A life not built from obligation but from choice. A love not demanded but returned. A peace that didn't require permission. I used to think losing everything would break me. Turns out it just cleared the ground.